Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to echo what the chairman did say earlier, that in my opinion, the bigger picture is that regardless of what the Defense Department wants and regardless of what many want on the domestic side, I don't think we've been in a more perilous point as a country financially when you are doing all of this, regardless of the arguments that you're making or the arguments the other side is making, when it's in the context of running $850 billion deficits. The thing I fear the most, and I think that would make more of an academic discussion on either point of view, is the fact that we're reaching, to me, a perilous tipping point that we've got to be careful about the big picture. And anything that we do here, I think, can't dismiss that as far out as you can see, we don't have anything really addressing in a serious way. Our budget process is devolved to where it is continuing resolutions. And I think the reason we've not yet addressed it is due to the fact that we've not been accountable for it and felt the pain of it. I want to focus on something you said earlier, aircraft carriers. You mentioned that the Chinese have just invested in and building their first aircraft carrier. Is that true?
Correct.
And then how many aircraft carriers do we have, roughly, because I don't expect you to maybe know exactly, maybe you do.
About a dozen.
About a dozen, okay. How many aircraft carriers does Russia have?
Depends on the size. I'll have to get you that number for the record.
Would it be closer to 2 or 3, half dozen?
Not on the same scale as we do.
Okay. And then how many aircraft carriers would there be among the entirety of the EU, including Great Britain?
Typical countries have either 1 or 2 if they have one at all.
Okay. So that's maybe, of course, not going to be representative of forces being ready and so forth, but I'm also looking at the trend of spending on defense. And now that we have drawn down from the Gulf Wars, you know, basically, if you take the hump out that was there during the peak of them, you know, it's been somewhere around 3 to 3.5%, maybe 4. I would argue that that's probably the baseline we need to look at. And wanting your opinion on what you see the EU doing in terms of their share, which I love the president bringing that up as a topic. Do you think they should do more? And for those of us that don't know the particulars, what are they doing?
So there's a couple of good points you brought up, Senator. Let me address them. The first one is you talked about GDP somewhere between 3 and 3.5%.
Yep.
Currently, we're at about 3.1. If you look at the numbers we're projecting in the out years, that will actually start to drop a little bit before 3%. Part of that is this administration understands and shares your concern that security and solvency are tied together and that you need to have both. And so we want to have a strong defense. We need to be recognized that that's tied to the strength of the economy. And as the economy grows, that's even better. Defense takes a smaller share of GDP. We're down to a smaller share of the federal budget. As long as we can perform our mission, that's goodness in terms of trying to help with the other issues you've talked about. With regard to the, with NATO and our European allies, there's about $41 billion that they have increased on their spending as a result of the actions taken over the last several years. We expect that to go up to about $100 billion. So we've seen them respond to the request for...
In terms of additional expenditures?
Additional.
Okay. And what is that on? How much in total currently? It raised $41 billion and it's intending to go up $100 billion. What is their baseline?
I'll have to get you the baseline for that.
That'd be interesting to know because I think collectively it's a larger economy than ours when you throw all of theirs together.
It is, and the other advantage, the other thing they provide in terms of is basing and access and the real estate that goes with it. But we are willing to work with our allies. We're eager to work through and support them. But this is not a charity. It's not a business. We're in there to work with them and to make sure everyone plays as part of the team. The cost for everyone goes down if we all chip in.
I think that'd be good to, you know, push that proposition. I know when I was running, there was a continuing resolution that did re-energize the defense sector. I think taking it from, where was it, in the high, like $590 billion, added almost $100 billion to those, to the expenditures. And I now see where we're wanting to go. And I also remember the president saying that was the last time, you know, he would agree to something like that. It looks to me like we're back into the same old rut of, you know, we push what might be important on our side to accommodate what the other side wants to do on domestic spending. Is that just a recent memory that has been lost, or does the administration still intend to stick with what it said, that that would be the last time they would join in kind of a kumbaya with the other side just to get defense spending across the finish line?
So I'll leave it to the White House and OMB to work in terms of how to settle on the non-defense piece of this. We just work in terms of building up the requirements so everyone has visibility.
Over my time, if we do another round of questioning, I'd have one or two. Thank you.
Senator Van Hollen.